The Galactic University lecture hall buzzed with the usual pre-class chatter. Professor Krell'nax, a distinguished Valorian with shimmering purple scales and 4 precisely articulated arms, adjusted his optical enhancers and cleared his throat chamber. The sound echoed like gravel in a metal drum. Settle down, settle down. He tapped his datapad against the podium. Today we examine the most fascinating chapter in xenobiology, Deathworld species and their inevitable extinction patterns. A collective murmur of interest rippled through the assembled students. Krell'nax couldn't help but feel a twinge of satisfaction. This was his favorite lecture of the semester, after all. Now, who can tell me what defines a death world? He scanned the room with his triple-set eyes at a Thraxian student, her tentacles waving enthusiastically, spoke up. Planets with gravity exceeding 1.2 standard units. Professor. Partially correct, Miss Veloria. Krell'nax brought up a holographic display. But that's merely scratching the surface. Death worlds possess multiple catastrophic characteristics. Unstable tectonic plates. Aggressive microbial life. Predators at every level of the food chain. Atmospheric conditions that would liquefy most civilized species. And most critically, these planets produce organisms so violently adapted to survival that they inevitably destroy themselves. He paced across the platform, his tail swishing with dramatic emphasis. Evolution on such worlds creates beings of terrifying capability, strength, speed, adaptability, problem-solving skills honed by constant mortal danger. But here's the fascinating paradox. These same traits guarantee their self-annihilation before achieving space travel. A Quellan student raised one of his 6 arms. Why is that, Professor? Excellent question, Mrix. You see, species evolved for pure survival lack the cooperative instincts necessary for advanced civilization. They're too aggressive, too territorial, too prone to violence. They fight over resources instead of sharing them. They wage wars instead of building alliances. Krell'nax's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. They eat each other, for void's sake. Nervous laughter rippled through the classroom. According to our comprehensive galactic records, 27 Deathworld species have been identified in the past million cycles. Every single one went extinct before mastering faster-than-light travel. The pattern is mathematically certain. He displayed a chart showing extinction timelines. We have archaeological evidence, geological surveys, and predictive models that confirm this universal truth. In the back row, something moved. A student raised their hand. Not tentacle, not appendage, not sensor array. A hand, with 5 fingers, attached to a bipedal creature wearing a strange blue jacket that read Earth University Exchange Program. In badly translated galactic standard, Krell'nax blinked, all 3 eye sets. He'd completely forgotten about the exchange student. What was it called again? Human? From that recently contacted system? Yes. His voice carried uncertainty. You have a question, mister? Jake Morrison. The creature stood up, and several students gasped. It was tall, ridiculously so, with bilateral symmetry and a skeletal structure that suggested it came from a high-gravity environment. Yeah, I've got a question. You said all Deathworld species went extinct. That is correct. The historical record is quite definitive. Jake's face did something strange. The corners of his mouth turned upward in what the cultural database had labeled a smile, but his eyes didn't match the expression. That's hilarious, Professor. Really, top-tier comedy. Because, fun fact, I'm literally right here. The lecture hall went silent. You could have heard a feather fall, assuming anyone present had feathers. Krell'nax felt his temperature regulation system malfunction slightly. I'm sorry, what? Earth. You know, that planet you just flagged as a death world on your little chart. Jake gestured at the hologram. I'm from there. We've got space travel. We've got faster-than-light communication. We've even got diplomatic relations now. Hence me sitting in your classroom, learning about how my entire species supposedly killed itself off before inventing the wheel. The professor's datapad slipped from his upper right hand and clattered on the floor. That's impossible. Your models are wrong, Professor. Jake sat back down, still wearing that unsettling smile. But hey, don't feel bad. I'm sure the next 20 minutes of your lecture about how we're all definitely extinct will be super informative. Professor Krell'nax felt every single one of his scales flush from purple to an embarrassing shade of orange. His reputation, carefully built over 3 decades of teaching, was currently crumbling faster than a supernova collapse. That is to say, he fumbled with his datapad, trying to regain composure. Perhaps there's been a clerical error in our databases? Jake leaned back in his chair with the casual confidence of someone who knew they'd just dropped a thermal bomb in a lecture hall. Or maybe your databases are just incomplete, Professor. No offense. Several students had started recording the interaction on their personal devices. This was going to be all over the university network within the hour. Krell'nax could already see his tenure review board watching the footage with disappointed headshakes. Miss Valoria raised a tentacle hesitantly. Professor, if this human is here, doesn't that disprove your entire thesis about Deathworld species? Absolutely not. Krell'nax's voice cracked slightly. He cleared his throat chamber again. Clearly, there are exceptions to every rule. Perhaps Earth is merely a high-risk planet, not a true death world. Let me check the planetary classification. He pulled up Earth's file on the holographic display and immediately regretted every life choice that had led him to this moment. Gravity coefficient, 1.4 standard units. Check. Tectonic instability rating, catastrophic. Check. Predator saturation index, off the charts. Check. Microbial lethality score, what in the void? Check. Atmospheric oxygen percentage, explosive levels. Check. How are you not dead? The question escaped Krell'nax's mouth before his professional filter could stop it. Jake shrugged, a gesture that made his shoulder joints move in ways that looked biomechanically impossible. We're pretty good at not dying, Professor. Kind of our thing, actually. Natural selection and all that. The ones who were bad at surviving didn't pass on their genes. But the predators. Krell'nax gestured wildly at the datapad. Your planet has apex predators in every ecological zone. Land, sea, air. How did your species even evolve sentience when everything was trying to consume you? Oh, we ate them back. Jake's smile widened. We're omnivores, Professor. And persistence hunters. We didn't run faster than our prey, we just ran longer. We chased animals until they literally collapsed from exhaustion, then we ate them. We're kind of terrifying when you think about it. A Quellan student made a sound like air escaping from a pressurized container. That's horrifying. Wait, it gets better. Jake was clearly enjoying himself now. We also domesticated the predators. Wolves? We turned them into dogs. Now they live in our homes, and we feed them and call them good boys. We made apex predators into pets. Good boys. Merx looked confused. What does that mean? It's a term of affection. We love our pets. Jake pulled out his communication device and showed a picture of something with fur and far too many teeth. This is Max. He's a German shepherd, descended from wolves. He sleeps on my bed. Half the class recoiled. The creature in the image looked like it could tear through hull plating. Professor Krell'nax was experiencing what humans would call a migraine, though his species didn't technically have the neurological structure for such afflictions. Let me understand this correctly. Your species befriended the predators. Some of them, yeah? The ones that didn't work out, we just hunted to near extinction instead. Kind of a flexible approach. Jake scrolled through more images. Oh, and we also have these things called cats. They're smaller predators that we let live in our homes, even though they show us absolutely no respect. We find their contempt amusing. Valoria's tentacles had gone completely still, a sign of deep shock in Thraxian biology. Your species finds predatory contempt amusing? Well, yeah, they're cute. Jake showed another picture of a small furry creature with calculating eyes. This is Whiskers. She knocks things off tables and attacks my feet at night. I love her. Krell'nax needed to sit down. Unfortunately, Valorian physiology didn't allow for sitting, so he just sort of slumped against the podium. This goes against every sociological model we have. Deathworld species are supposed to be hyper-aggressive and unable to form cooperative bonds. Oh, we're definitely aggressive, Jake admitted cheerfully. But we're also pack animals. Social creatures. We form bonds with literally anything. Other humans, animals, sometimes even inanimate objects. There are people on Earth who've named their vehicles and get emotionally attached to them. You bond with your transportation? Mrix sounded faint. My roommate cried when his truck broke down. Named it Betsy. 17 years they were together. Jake's expression turned momentarily solemn. It was a rough week. The lecture hall had descended into complete chaos. Students were talking over each other, some pulling up Earth's files on their own devices, others simply staring at Jake like he was a biological impossibility made flesh. Professor Krell'nax finally managed to stabilize his chromatic fluctuations, though his scales still showed occasional orange patches of distress. He straightened up and attempted to salvage what remained of his academic credibility. Fine. So Earth humans have somehow defied statistical probability and survived their hostile environment. That still doesn't explain how you achieved space travel without destroying yourselves first. The aggression problem remains. He crossed his upper arms triumphantly, convinced he'd found solid ground again. Jake's eyebrows rose, an expression the cultural database indicated meant skepticism or amusement. The aggression problem? You want to talk about human aggression? Yes, precisely. Krell'nax seized the opportunity. Deathworld species channel their survival instincts into territorial warfare. They develop weapons instead of warp drives. They annihilate themselves before reaching the stars. How did you avoid this fate? Well, Professor, here's the thing. Jake stood up again, and Krell'nax noticed several students instinctively lean away from the human. We didn't avoid it. We absolutely did all of that. We had massive wars. We invented horrifying weapons. We came really, really close to wiping ourselves out. Multiple times, actually. Then how are you here? Valoria's voice was barely a whisper. Because we're also really, really stubborn. Jake started counting on his fingers. We nearly destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons. We made treaties. We disagreed on everything. We argued until we found common ground. We poisoned our own planet. We started fixing it. We're not perfect, not even close, but we're persistent. Like I said, persistence is kind of our evolutionary advantage. Mrix raised multiple arms. But the models indicate that such aggressive tendencies would prevent the cooperation necessary for space exploration. Your models are based on logic, right? Pure survival mathematics. Jake walked down the aisle between seats, and students parted like he was emitting radiation. Here's what your models missed. Humans aren't purely logical. We're emotional. We're irrational. We make decisions based on feelings, on hope, on spite sometimes. We went to our moon not because it made economic sense, but because we wanted to prove we could do it. That's illogical, stated a student with crystalline features. Exactly. We're beautifully, magnificently illogical. Jake laughed, a sound that made several students jump. We keep pets that provide no functional benefit. We create art that serves no survival purpose. We explore dangerous places just to see what's there. We help strangers who can't pay us back. We sacrifice ourselves for abstract concepts like honor and love. Your models can't account for that because it doesn't make sense. Professor Krell'nax felt his worldview cracking like an eggshell. This is absurd. Evolution doesn't work that way. Traits that don't contribute to survival get eliminated. Tell that to my appendix, Jake shot back. Or wisdom teeth. Or the fact that we find baby animals adorable even when they're from species that would eat us. Evolution made us survivors, sure, but it also made us weird. Complicated. Contradictory. We're a mess of competing instincts and learned behaviors and cultural values. A brave student from the front row spoke up. Can you give us an example? Jake thought for a moment. Okay, so humans have this thing called the overview effect. When our astronauts go to space and look back at Earth, seeing it as this tiny, fragile ball floating in the void, something changes in their brains. They come back different, more peaceful, more aware that we're all stuck on this planet together. Seeing how small we are in the universe somehow makes us care more about each other. That's poetic, Valoria murmured. But it doesn't explain how you overcame your violent nature. We didn't overcome it. We redirected it. Jake's expression turned serious. We compete in sports instead of wars, most of the time. We argue in parliaments instead of battlefields, usually. We channel aggression into business, into games, into passionate debates about which way to hang toilet paper. We found mostly non-lethal outlets. Mostly. Krell'nax caught the qualifier. We're still working on it, Professor. We're not claiming to be perfect. We still have conflicts. We still make terrible mistakes. But we're trying. And that's more than your models gave us credit for. Jake's voice carried an edge now. Your research concluded we'd definitely destroy ourselves. You didn't even leave room for the possibility that we might choose differently. The lecture hall was absolutely silent now. Every student was focused on this bizarre creature from a nightmare planet, explaining how his species had survived against cosmic odds. You want to know the real reason we made it, Professor? Jake walked back toward his seat. It's because when we're faced with extinction, we don't just accept it. We get angry. We get creative. We cooperate like our lives depend on it, because they do. We've stared into the abyss so many times that we've gotten pretty good at staring back. Krell'nax's datapad chimed with an incoming message. He glanced at it, and his scales flushed orange again. It was from the department head. The lecture was being live-streamed to the entire university network. 17,000 viewers were currently watching him being systematically dismantled by an undergraduate exchange student. Professor Krell'nax made a decision that would either save or completely destroy his career. He set down his datapad, looked directly at Jake, and did something he rarely did in front of students. He admitted he was wrong. "Mr. Morrison, would you be willing to finish this lecture?" His voice was steady despite the internal panic. "It appears you have considerably more expertise on this subject than I do." The entire lecture hall gasped. Students exchanged shocked glances. In 30 years of teaching, Krell'nax had never yielded his podium to anyone, let alone a student. Jake blinked, apparently surprised. "Are you serious?" "Completely. My models were flawed. My conclusions were premature. Science demands we adapt when presented with contradictory evidence." Krell'nax gestured toward the front of the room. "You are the contradictory evidence. So please, educate us." A slow smile spread across Jake's face, different from before. This one seemed genuine, warm even. "All right then, let's talk about what your models actually got wrong." Jake walked to the podium with that peculiar bipedal gait, all coordinated limbs and efficient movement. He pulled up Earth's file on the holographic display. "First off, yes, Earth is absolutely a death world by your standards. Everything Professor Krell'nax said about the dangers is accurate. Our planet has tried to kill us in every way imaginable. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, ice ages, asteroid impacts. We've survived 5 major extinction events, and we weren't even the dominant species for most of them." He zoomed in on Earth's timeline. But here's what the models missed. Adversity doesn't just breed aggression. It also breeds innovation. Every challenge we faced forced us to adapt, to think, to create solutions. We invented fire because we were cold. We developed agriculture because hunting was unpredictable. We built cities because cooperation was more effective than isolation. Veloria raised a tentacle. But what about the warfare? The self-destructive tendencies? "Oh, we definitely have those," Jake acknowledged without hesitation. "Humans have fought wars over land, resources, religion, ideology, and sometimes just because we didn't like each other. We've created weapons that could end all life on our planet. We came terrifyingly close to using them, too. So how are you still alive?" Rix asked. "Because we're also capable of remarkable compassion. For every human who built a weapon, there was another who built a hospital. For every war, there were peace treaties. For every act of hatred, there were countless acts of kindness that nobody bothered to record because they seemed ordinary." Jake's voice carried conviction now. "We have capacity for both extreme violence and extreme empathy. Your models only accounted for 1/2 of that equation." He changed the display to show human achievements. "We sent robots to other planets. We eradicated diseases. We created art that serves no purpose except to make us feel something. We wrote music that can make us cry or laugh or dance. We built machines that let us talk to people on the other side of our world instantly. And yes, we also built weapons, but we chose not to use the worst of them." "Choice," Krell'nax said quietly. "Your models emphasized choice." "Exactly, Professor. We had the capacity to destroy ourselves, and we chose not to. We still choose not to, every single day. That's not weakness or statistical anomaly. That's willpower." Jake looked around the room at the assembled students. "You want to know what makes humans dangerous? It's not our strength or our aggression. It's our ability to decide our own fate despite what biology or logic or statistical models say we should do." A student in the middle row spoke up nervously. "Are all humans like you? Calm and reasonable?" Jake laughed, that sharp barking sound that made everyone flinch. "Oh, void no. I'm actually pretty mellow by human standards. You should meet my sister. She does something called extreme rock climbing, where she scales vertical cliffs without safety equipment, just for fun, because she enjoys the adrenaline rush from nearly dying." "That's insane," someone whispered. "Yep, we're kind of insane by galactic standards. We jump out of aircraft for recreation. We eat foods that cause us pain because we like the taste. We keep attempting things that failed before just to see if we can do them differently. We're a species of stubborn, optimistic, irrational survivors who refuse to go extinct even when the universe gave us every reason to. Jake pulled up a final image, Earth from space, blue and green and white, fragile looking against the black void. This is home. This is the death world that forged us. And yeah, it's dangerous and beautiful and completely unforgiving. But it's ours. We didn't conquer it. We learned to live with it. And that made all the difference. Professor Krell'nax looked at the image, then at Jake, then at his datapad still showing the alert about 17,000 viewers. He made another decision. Class dismissed early today. I need to rewrite my entire curriculum. He turned to Jake. Mr. Morrison, would you be available for a consulting position? It appears I have several decades of research to correct. Jake grinned. Sure, Professor. Happy to help. Just one condition. Name it. Next time you teach about Deathworld species, maybe check if any of them are sitting in your classroom first. The lecture hall erupted in laughter, a dozen different species making their various sounds of amusement. Even Krell'nax's scales rippled with what might have been humor as students filed out. Chattering excitedly about the unprecedented lecture, Veloria approached Jake cautiously. Question. You said humans bond with anything. Does that mean you might want to get food with us? We're curious about Deathworld social customs. Jake's face lit up. Absolutely. Fair warning though, human social customs around food can get weird. We have eating competitions where people try to consume dangerous amounts of food just to win prizes. Why would anyone do that? Rix asked, genuinely baffled. Because it's funny and we're idiots. Jake grabbed his bag. Come on, I'll tell you about the time someone ate 76 hot dogs in 10 minutes. You're going to love how stupid we are. As they left, Professor Krell'nax stood alone in the empty lecture hall, looking at Earth spinning slowly in the holographic display. Somewhere on that dangerous, beautiful, utterly improbable planet, billions of humans were going about their lives. Surviving, thriving, defying every statistical model that said they shouldn't exist. He began typing a message to the Galactic Scientific Council. Subject: critical error in Deathworld extinction models. Recommend immediate review. It was going to be a long night, but somehow, Krell'nax was actually looking forward to it. So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.